Welcome back, listeners. Today we are dropping another episode from our series called The Tutelage of Treehouse. The team at Treehouse is on a mission to diversify the tech industry through accessible education, unlocking opportunity, and empowering people to achieve. In our series, we will be talking to leaders and students in the program to learn about how Treehouse has impacted their lives, businesses, and careers. Well, today I have Cynthia Kao on the podcast on Code Story. She is the executive director at Operation Code, has spent time as a combat journalist, was deployed in service twice in the Air Force, and is passionate about serving and advocating for the military. Cynthia, thank you for being on the show today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Before we jump into Operation Code and your partnership specifically with Treehouse, tell me a little bit about you.
Yeah, gosh, enigma, honestly. I'll keep it short. I was in the Air Force Reserves for 6 years. I was also a 15-year active duty military spouse. So during that time, being dual military and raising 3 kids during the surge of Iraq and Afghanistan, that was definitely a difficult time. I spent the first 15 years of my career as a licensed clinical social worker. So I specifically focused on substance and addiction use and trauma before my time in service. And in 2008, decided to make a career change. And it's really come full circle. So I started my career in journalism, media, and then tech. Got out of the service in 2014. Spent a couple years working in TV and film production, doing a lot of video on demand, digital streaming, and 3D motion graphics. Very quickly transitioned into software application and more of the tech space in 2016. I'm a founder of Rebirth Media and also the co-host of the Veteran Founder podcast. So I came to Operation Code in 2019. I was working and living in Belgium at the time and needed some code help on some projects I was working on. And I like to say I came for the code help and stayed for the community. And so really, I've been at Operation Code for about 4 years now. Found the community that I didn't realize I had. I was already working in tech, but I wasn't plugged in. I was pretty isolated from the rest of my veteran brothers and sisters in the military community. And when I came to Operation Code, it was just like a natural fit, not only to find people that have left the service or about to transition out of the service and working on their tech careers, but folks that really want to continue to give of their time after they take off that uniform. So that's a little bit about why I came to Operation Code.
Thank you for sharing that. You have obviously had a well-rounded career path, and before we go too far, obviously, thank you for your service and for your family's service.
Thank you.
Well, tell me what Operation Code is. Give me the story there.
So Operation Code started in 2013 with an Army captain named David Molina. He was our original founder, based out of Portland, Oregon. He got out of the Army and was teaching himself Ruby on Rails and realized very quickly he couldn't use his GI Bill to go to any coding boot camps. He had already had his bachelor's degree and master's degree, and so using the GI Bill for higher education didn't make a lot of sense if he wanted to learn how to code and get that hands-on technical experience to be able to work in the tech sector. And from there, he started lobbying at Congress. He started working with our congressional staff to find out how can we expand the current GI Bill to make it eligible for coding boot camps, because you could not use your GI Bill for tech certifications or coding boot camps, which are between 6 months to a year. So 2015, people started finding out about Operation Code, basically just word of mouth. I think at one point, David had 17 veterans coding together in his house, and it just expanded. It grew into an online community to service people from different states, different branches. We were able to formulate the licensed 501c3 in 2015, became an actual nonprofit. Congress passed the use of vet tech, which is a portion of the GI Bill called the Forever GI Bill. Our service members, veterans, are able to now use vet tech without even touching their existing GI Bill for coding boot camps. So we're not a service provider. We work with coding boot camps to get vet tech certified. We have a vet tech working group where coding providers meet once a month to talk about the struggles that they have, getting certified, getting more military members. We provide direct training with our community. So we have over 10,000 members at this point globally. They're transitioning service members, folks that are either reserves, National Guard, military veterans, and military spouses and family members. And the great thing is that we also have civilians that are affiliated with the military or want to give back as mentors. So they join us because they already work in tech or are growing themselves in tech and want to give back to our community. So, what we do is a little bit of advocacy work, continuing that service, working with the congressional staff to expand the GI Bill. What are the issues facing our military members today, like military spouses? I know that there's a current bill called the Military Hiring Act, which is a bit of an expansion. It's to try to incentivize companies to hire military spouses as well as veterans. There's another bill we're also lobbying for that's expanding GI Bill benefits to reservists and National Guard. So there's a lot of advocacy going on there. We have scholarships that we partner with Team Treehouse to provide, where we have our service members, veterans, and military spouses eligible to get more coding help through those learning licenses, additional certifications. We have an open source program where they can contribute and grow their portfolio. We have free workforce development workshops, guest speakers, and then we also provide training on the tech side of the house, providing diversity, equity, and inclusion training on how do you get folks in through the door, but how do you retain people? How do you retain employment and make sure that you have the professional development for your military community that's working in the tech sector?
I'm curious, you mentioned Treehouse licenses, which is something I want to talk about, but, what sort of tooling are you using to help these individuals thrive in their learning? It could be Treehouse, could be all kinds of stuff, but tell me a little bit about that.
So our community, because we're global, we've got service members that are stationed abroad, military spouses that are stationed in, all 50 states and OCONUS. Our community is based on Slack, so we use the Slack platform to communicate. We also have our open source software, which is based on GitHub. And so a lot of our specialized, customized commands that we've incorporated, we built a resources API that is custom built from our members. People have worked on a Python bot that integrates from our website directly into Slack. So these are ways that people can contribute and grow their code base and really kind of develop those skills before they get a job or as they continue to grow in their field. We also have 4 different scholarships. So Treehouse is one of them. So we really continue to try to expand those learning licenses. And honestly, without the in-kind donations from Treehouse, we wouldn't be able to meet our mission. We wouldn't be able to help our community as we do now. So it's definitely a core part of our program.
Tell me more about that. So what makes Treehouse stand out from the other solutions out there? You mentioned, their in-kind donations and things of that nature and how the programs are helping, your service members and their families. Tell me about how they stand out.
I think a lot of the service members that come to us, that are starting their tech careers, unless they have a military occupation where they're already working in tech, they either do network engineering or cybersecurity. The majority of the folks that come to us are self-taught. They don't even know where to begin. And so what we do is provide that core base of an intro to many different tech stacks. And Team Treehouse is that very expansive program where it gives you a taste of what is it like to work in front-end engineering, for example, or what is it like to work on network engineering or infrastructure. I try to let people know, hey, before you use your GI Bill and go to a coding boot camp and study 6 months to a year in something that you might not really like, start exploring, find out what do you really like. And we do that through our mentorship program. We provide, one-to-one career counseling to help people hone in on their existing strengths and what are they not looking at. Because the majority of folks, they come to us and they might not realize, hey, I'm a creative person. For example, I was a combat photojournalist. I worked in the public affairs office. So I came from a creative background. I was working in journalism while I was a social worker. And so it was easier for me while I was teaching myself how to code on the front end. I was more of a visual person, design person. And so to go into UI, UX design, software design, application design, it was kind of seamless. And if somebody's like trying to figure out their tech career, they may not know what the options are out there. So, when you're learning a Team Treehouse license and they're utilizing that, they have the the freedom and the ability to explore. If they take a course and they realize, well, this is really not what I want to do for the rest of my life, like study it, you've learned something for today, and then you can continue to gain other certifications in other areas. So, we like to use the slogan, your tech career is a marathon, not a sprint. So, what you learn today is going to set you up for success later on down the road. Learning is constantly that tool of the trade. Everything's constantly evolving. What you're doing right now may not be the case 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So you've got to learn how to pivot. The Team Treehouse licenses definitely helps our members.
So what does the future look like for Operation Code and Treehouse, the partnership and for Operation Code in general? What does tomorrow look like?
We talked a lot about educating our members, right? And I think from the inception of the organization in 2015 until now, it was focused on how do we get our members up to speed so that we can give them the best tools. This is the hard work. There's a lot of organizations that hire veterans. Those folks are ready to go. They either have a 4-year degree, they finished their coding boot camp, they've either been working in the field and they're ready to get hired. The difficult work is when you're taking somebody who is maybe 6 months to a year out from getting out of the military. They don't have that degree. They don't have the exposure. They don't have the 2 years experience in the work field to get their foot in through the door. In the past, I think the last, 5 to 6 years was focused on the newbie experience. Now we're looking at, members that have been with us for the last 5, 7 year, 8 years that are mid to senior level career. And people are growing very, very quickly. So you're seeing folks get in through the door, even just when I joined in 2019, I remember seeing folks that just started their tech careers then, and now they're in a senior team lead position. They're managing other people, they're hiring other people, they're trying to mentor and bring in other military spouses and veterans into their companies, which is great. Now the focus isn't just on the newbie journey, it's on the mid to senior level, and how do we get folks into the decision-making spots like executive team, how can we grow diversity? How can we get folks within our marginalized community? Because veterans aren't all one size fits all. We come from different backgrounds. We have different cultural diversity. And so how do we get folks that may be in a position that's marginalized, that you're seeing as minorities in tech? How do we get those people to the table? So really right now the focus is not just continuing that learning journey for our members, but continuing to advocate and teach the tech companies themselves. What I see most of is we get the newbies in through the door and they get hired into junior level or individual contributor roles. But how do we move them into executive level roles when, they've have 12 plus years of experience, leadership experience already, all the soft skills that, civilians might not have. We have folks like that are getting out of the military with all of those leadership skills already. It's a little bit of cultural competency training, definitely working with the people ops, hiring managers. And, what we're seeing is retention, right? Everybody's talking about the labor market and how competitive it is. But how do you retain employees? It's not enough just to get people in through the door. How do you make sure that those folks are going to continue to gain professional development experience, continue to grow in their careers? Some of these learning licenses are just one part of the solution. The other part of the solution is having ongoing support. For us, we talk to military employee resource groups, the ERGs at the tech companies, to make sure that they have the support that they need culturally as well as professionally.
Well, Cynthia, one more question. For anyone who's out there looking at all of the learning tools that are available, because there are quite a few. But why would you tell them to use Treehouse?
Well, to be honest, we've had a partnership with Treehouse for many years now. And when Xenon came on board for the acquisition, I did not know that they had veterans in their founder space. And so it really means something to us to have that commitment from somebody who understands, so that they understand our mission, they know what we're doing. We're 99% volunteer based. So the majority of us in executive leadership at Operation Code, we're members first. We've gone through this program. We live that story every day. So I would not be able to be effective as an executive director if I didn't understand what our members are going through. So those of us who are working in tech, it's a continuation of our growth. And so I tell my story all the time when I say, hey, my story as a military spouse, as a reservist, as a veteran, is not something that I just speak lightly of. It's definitely coming from the heart. And so Team Treehouse is one of those companies that have really said, hey, we're going to formulate this commitment. We're going to continue to provide these, 50 free licenses for your community to use. And it's changing lives. It really is changing lives. To be able to have somebody, let's say they exhausted their GI Bill or they weren't eligible because they were in National Guard and reserves and they didn't serve an active duty component. They weren't activated. They can still use Team Treehouse to be able to learn. Utilize our mentorship program to continue to grow. It's really that personal story behind the brand that we love. And it's not just hey, we're just giving you these licenses, but we know nothing about you and we don't talk. I mean, we constantly have communication with the Team Treehouse staff. They're interested in how our folks are learning. So I think that's what makes them stand out, is that personal story behind the brand.
Well, Cynthia, thank you for being on the show today and telling me all about Operation Code, Team Treehouse, and how you work together to enable our veterans to learn to code.
It's a pleasure to be on here. Thank you for having me.
An incredible partnership between Operation Code and Treehouse, providing great benefits towards the tech industry for our veterans and their families. This concludes another episode in this series, The Tutelage of Treehouse, sponsored by our good friends at Treehouse. You can learn more about their opportunities for learning at teamtreehouse.com.
Life can be chaotic. If you're running a retail business, don't let disorganized order fulfillment add to the chaos. Use ShipStation instead. With ShipStation, you never have to worry about shipping and fulfillment again. Whether you're running a business out of your garage or you have multiple warehouses, ShipStation is ideal for every phase of your business's growth. Save time with one login for all your stores and by automating repetitive tasks. Plus, you'll save money with the best shipping rates from global carriers. ShipStation's industry-leading features help you deliver a better customer experience. They'll get accurate and faster shipments along with automated tracking updates with your branding. And with up to 88% off UPS and USPS rates and up to 90% off FedEx rates, ShipStation is the fastest and most affordable way to ship. Calm the chaos. Switch to ShipStation today. Start a free trial at shipstation.com/audio. That's shipstation.com/audio.
Business taxes. We're stressing about all the time and all the money you spent on your taxes.
This is my bill?
Now Business Taxes is a TurboTax small business expert who does your taxes for you and offers year-round advice at no additional cost, so you can keep more money in your business. Now this is taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on turbotax.com/business. Only available with TurboTax Live full service.